Hello, everybody. It's Licia Berry, and I'm actually giving you a tour of my side of the show today. Peter is off teaching some kids in the middle school how to make fractals on the computer, which is so awesome. But I've got a unique opportunity here because I've got a quiet window for just a little bit, a few minutes, to give you a tour of my show, my part of the show, and explain a little bit about what the show is about. So people who have been following my work, who read my work, who know my art, know that I'm very interested in the feminine source of power, in my seeking for mother in my life, that it's driven me into the arms of the archetypal mother intelligence, and that's, of course, the subject of I'm Her Daughter. And so naturally my art is along that line as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit of, take you a tour through my art and show you where it all fits together. So we'll start here. And this is the piece that's when you first walk in to the show. This is Mary White Buffalo Calf Woman, and this is a way for me to incorporate my indigenous ancestry with my devotion to Mary, which is interesting because I come from a multi-faith perspective, a multi-spiritual traditions perspective. So Mary is, she takes many faces for me, and so my art attempts to bring honor to all the different faces that I've seen her in, the way she represents in the world. So this is actually a marriage of a photograph that I took on my pilgrimage to France, where I was on a pilgrimage to take Madonna photos, and to bring her into an indigenous feel with the buffalo robe. And it was sort of one of those mystical situations because I was guided to put this together, these images together. This is the NASA photograph of one of the nebulas. It's just incredible. And was guided to put her in there, but realized that it looked like she was wrapped in a buffalo robe. And suddenly I didn't, it dawned on me, this is White Buffalo Calf Woman, which is, in indigenous tradition of the U.S., she's the bringer of the world and the lessons and the good ways of living into indigenous culture. So she holds court at the very front of the show. And over here we have Mary Dreaming. I mentioned this a little bit yesterday when we were putting it up. This is also inspired by the pilgrimage to France. And so the photograph of Mary is a sculpture that was there, and then the large clamshell is actually on the cathedral at Lourdes. And they actually hold holy water in there, which I thought was amazing because you don't usually see a giant clamshell attached to a magnificent, cathedral holding holy water, but that's what it is for. But in this case, you see that it's holding the darkness of space, which is kind of where everything came from, right? And then this is paired with one of Peter's fractals, which is his Devil's Tower sort of inspired fractal. If you're familiar with that, in Wyoming, it's a sacred mountain to the local indigenous population there. And that wanted to go together. And then we have Holy Mother, and I was a little nervous about using the word holy in a piece of art, but I think it's because she's in a church environment, a cathedral environment, that I wanted to kind of honor that's where I found her. Architecturally, the cathedral is there, but you can see that it's fading away because the truer underneath, the space and the nebula and the star nursery coming in from behind is really what is holding her. The structure around her is temporary. So, again, a photo from France. Okay, and then we will move down here. And this is the panel where I have my handwork. And so you can see that my handwork tends to vary. I've got, I love figure drawing, and so, and painting, figure painting. So I've done several charcoal figures there. And so the male figure on either side, kind of flanking the female figure in the center, which is actually ink on paper. And because she really does hold a powerful presence, kind of Neanderthal almost to me. And these two male figures seem to be kind of flanking on either side. It just felt appropriate somehow for those to be together as a triptych. And then here we have the collage wall, mixed media wall. And that is Heart with Wings up at the top, which is a masonite form. All of these are on masonite that I designed and had cut. And so the Heart with Wings is a monoprint in the center, and then collage with multiple textures of papers and fabrics. And then it's painted over with a clay slip. So this is actually earth watered down and painted on top of the Heart with Wings. So it's really, we think of Heart with Wings and we think love, in action, love with wings. They're 20. Yes. And so the idea with Heart with Wings is that, love transcends any of the kind of wild stuff that we wind up encountering in our lives, and that there is a higher love, and that even when things make sense, love is still there, and it's a way of finding gifts and blessings in whatever happens to us. That's the message of the Heart with Wings. It overcomes, it transcends. The mermaids are intended to be, well, at least my first thought was whimsical. But it turned out that they're kind of deep too. Big surprise, right? So the message is intended towards deeper upon further examination. So I'm going to zoom in on each one and show you the messages in each of these. So this is Mermaid 1. She's the healing mermaid. She's kind of shamanic, indigenous medicine, but also very much centered on heart because she's covered in green. There's just so much green on this one. And so she's like heart, 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 healing, healing, healing. And turquoise is a healing stone, and that is all up and around her, what would be her heart chakra if she had a heart chakra. And to me, the face that wanted to be on this one really shows a lot of compassion. So perhaps this is this is a face that, shows a lot of compassion for people who've been through something challenging. And so she is the face of a healer. And that's where that impulse comes from, I think, from all these stones and gems that are about healing on her. So that's the healer. And then we have mermaid number 2, and she's really about inclusion. Love is definitely the theme, but love in the form of inclusion. And this became evident to me after seeing what tested, positive to be on her. This painting is from, I believe it's the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. It's about judgment. It's about whether people get into heaven or not. And I see some evidence here and there of cultures that are more inclusive, and I wonder if this is just about tending to making right what's not been made right, and being inclusive instead of exclusive, and the love, in that. Okay, and then we have our third mermaid, and she is very blue, and I find that she is more about higher mind and clarity. And blue, of course, is associated with emotion and water, but also with higher mind, having clarity, the clear blue sky. So I believe that this mermaid is about finding the truth underneath the situation, not being overcome by the apparent, what looks to be going on, but actually seeking the truth underneath and transforming it so that we can know really what's going on, have accuracy about what's going on. Okay, and over here we have another handmade piece. This is called the Leaf Study, and this is a linoleum print that I did, ages ago in 1988. And again, the reason that we included some of the handmade in this show is that this show is about art and technology, and there's intended to be a divine marriage. And so it was important to bring hand pieces in here as well as digital pieces, because that's the whole point, is a way of blending what appears to be two opposites into one thing, one seamless, art form. We, Peter and I both believe that art tools can vary, and so we both experience using hand techniques that we learned in art school. We're both classically trained and have BFAs, but using the digital format as a tool as well, and even bringing our hand art into the digital format. This is the Life Giver. This is Mother 5 and Mother 1. And these are mixed media printed on metal prints. Here is another photograph from France, from Lourdes. This is a mother and child, Mary and Jesus. But included in that is one of Peter's fractals in her robe, and then Jesus' robe as well, one of Peter's fractals, and then a tiny little drawing from one of my children. It looked to me like a heart and two birds, and that's what this one is called, a heart and two birds. And this is Maria of the Roses, so you might recognize the underpainting, which is Mary White Buffalo Calf Woman. But I love the Latin Dia de los Muertos holiday. I love the concept of honoring our ancestors and interacting, having a relationship, giving acknowledgement to them. And so she's a nod to Dia de los Muertos. And then here we have another hand piece, and this is an acid etching that I did in 1988 called Porch Ladies, Southern Magnolias, with one of my photography exhibitions that led into an acid etching. And then here we have the Balbo section. And if any of you know the Balbo, I'm going to explain a little bit about it. So the Balbo, it's kind of naughty and bawdy and, story, but the Balbo is a legend of, and actually even a form of feminine archetype that is the crone. Okay, so she's like the wise old woman who wanders around and everybody kind of thinks she's crazy. And so there's this conflict. This is how the story goes. There's a conflict. There's some kind of major thing going on. And everybody's freaking out and everybody's been out of shape about it. And she comes along like, here I am. I'm just, oh, you don't mind me because I'm just, a crone. Nobody pays attention to me, kind of thing. And she lifts up her skirts in front of everybody and is naked underneath her skirt. And so she's flashing everybody, in this environment. And it shocks everyone so much that they start laughing. And they just start laughing uproariously, and suddenly the conflict is resolved. So this wise elder woman uses her unique technique to break the tension, to break the conflict, and then the conflict is resolved. So as much interesting times as we're living in right now, there's a lot of conflict, a lot of tension. She wanted to be in the show, and so she's in 2 of these pieces. So I'm going to show you where she is in these pieces. If I can get this thing to turn around. There we go. So this is the flower Balbo, and this is the statue here, the angel, is a photograph I took in France. This Balbo is an old, an archaic piece, a prehistoric piece of sculpture that I wrapped into the angel, like underneath the angel, to kind of, again, marry 2 opposing concepts. Like, a lot of people might say, well, that's just really dirty. And then there's this holy angel. But to me, this Balbo serves a very important function. The resolution of conflict, the creation of humor, so that people can break from the trance of tension and conflict to have peace again. And I think that's what this piece is about, is really about peace. And then we have the Zen butterfly Balbo, and this one is even more in your face. So we have the Zen, the dreamer, the sort of who's dreaming the universe into being, perhaps, as we see all these universe, images on her. And then the Balbo opening up and actually birthing transformation, birthing the butterfly, which is a symbol for transformation. So this, I anticipate that this section that I'm showing you right now will get the most controversial comments in the show. So then we have the gold figure, and she's hand drawing ink on paper that I took into a digital format and pulled Peter's fractals in, which is the throne that she's sitting on, and also different of his fractals for her skin. And then I sampled a raven's feather, raven's wings, and pulled raven's feathers into her hair and behind her as if it were a headdress, and some lava rock, and ashes. So gold figure, metal print on metal. And then this is Lady Landscape, and this is another one of my charcoal figure drawings that I then photographed and brought into a digital format using Peter's fractal. The green is one of Peter's fractals. And then the landscape underneath her is also one of Peter's in the show, a western landscape. So she's almost as if she's part of the mountain range. And this is a reference point to indigenous philosophy, and I really feel in my body, I really feel the truth of this, that we are the land. All right. So then we have the contemplative bather. This is another one of my hand pieces, charcoal drawing of a female placed into a surreal landscape where we've got one of Peter's fractals here. I've put her into one of Peter's fractals and then sampled in an antique landscape that has a decidedly Asian flair to it. And she just looks like she's, kind of gazing off into the distance. So we call her the contemplative bather. And that is also a metal print. And then we have Victory. And this is actually an older mixed media piece that I did when I was going through some pretty intense healing work. And I looked at this image, and it gave me strength sometimes. So she's on a giant metal print now. And you can see there's a little outer space in the landscape kind of wrapped into the shadow of the mountains. And she's also available on the print too. And then we have Our Lady of Guadalupe. This is a photo of a sculpture in Lourdes, France, that I brought into digital format to make her gown, a space picture, a NASA picture, and then another NASA picture behind her, as if she's kind of emerging from a nebula. I love Our Lady of Guadalupe. I call her my Lady G. She's the OG, the original Guadalupe. Ha 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 ha. And this is Our Lady in Red, and this is the one that got attention. In fact, that's what got me the show. This is a photograph I took at Lourdes, France, of Our Lady of Lourdes. And if you look close, you can see she still has crown, and tack is kind of hard because there's a little bit of glare, but here on the print it's very obvious. And there's some of the architectural structure from the cathedral in Lourdes, but I wrapped in the red image from NASA because I just felt something that there needed to be a marriage between this beautiful, pristine Mother Mary figure with the earth and the indigenous road and the groundedness and blood and love, and all of which to me are very much represented by red. So she's like this very grounded High Mother. That's Our Lady in Red. Also available on metal print. And then my crowning piece, you guys might remember this one. This is the Mother of the World. And I'll show you close up, but I want you to look at it from the back because she's 8 feet tall. She's a masonite form that I was actually modeled after my body. I laid down and had my husband trace around my body. And so we had that cut out, and then collage and mixed media on her. So those close up in here. We have obviously inspired by ISIS. It's because I was really strongly I'd find an Egyptian mask that was actually smiling. And in looking through the Egyptian masks that are available, the images of those, there are very few that are actually smiling. This is the one I found. And so I got that one and then drew. She got a lot of gems on her. There's garnet, there's moonstone and pearl. Her skin is made of hieroglyphs, Mayan and Egyptian. There are fossils. There are cave paintings. So she's literally made of the ancient world. Bronze Age artifacts. And then her gown is actually one of Peter's paintings. One of his systems paintings is her gown. And then her heart is covered by coral, and I found that to be kind of a hearkening to the sea. You know, the life of the earth is the sea, and we really need to be taking care of the ocean, and that's her heart. You know, the sea is her heart. And then, of course, this awesome stuff that I found, this fabric is her mantle. And when I have more room, you can spread it all the way out like she's got wings. So that's my side of the show. Peter's side, I'm going to let him give you a tour, although I will show you these two pieces that he and I collaborated on. This is one that he and I did together. That's Goddess on the Altar. And that's, again, Isis but that's like an early mother with child scenario. And then here is my the photograph I took in France near Lourdes. It's a secret location, a pilgrimage location, and placed that inside one of Peter's fractals. So there you have it. I'm going to let Peter, like I said, I'm going to let him show you his work and explain his work, but thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for watching, you guys. I appreciate all the love and encouragement for our show. The opening will actually be on Saturday, and so we're going to live stream the opening as well as the lectures that we're going to be offering the public here. So we'll bring you in on those lectures, and I hope that you enjoy those too. So let's see if is there anything else. I can't think of anything else right now. Talk to you later. Lots of love. Bye.